Alright, welcome back to Star Control 2. Let's play Star Control 2, I should say. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to sell some of our fuel and sell our fuel tank, one of our fuel tanks, because I kind of thought about it, and we got enough fuel to do what we need to do without having 100 fuel. So, that wasn't what I wanted. I want this. Now I'm going to sell this to 60, because each thing holds 50 fuel. And then our ship itself holds 10. So we want to deplete that fuel thing and then sell this. Alright, and now what we want to do is we want to buy some speed jobbies and a turning jet. We want to max those out as soon as possible. Now, the first thing we're going to do, I got a request to talk to Commander Hayes, so I'll make a couple of special videos talking to him. But I don't want to do that right now. He does have a couple of pretty important hints, so I will go through it now. And talk to him about a couple of things.
Hello, Captain.
But, I'm not going to do the whole shebang about it. Or I might do it and then just cut it out and do a special video where I talk to him about everything. Or I may just leave it in. We'll see.
Certainly, Captain. What do you need to know?
Well, another weird thing about Commander Hayes is that his voice kind of echoes a bit, and the other ones don't do it. I don't know why, but maybe it's just because humans use radios or something. Okay, this is where he tells me about what the various things he can do. But let's ask him how we can defeat the ur-quan.
Can you be more specific?
Very good of him to do that. Well, this is a very important thing to know if you're new to the game. Where can we find the best minerals?
If you have the patience, I would recommend you spend several months or even a year gathering mineral resources. You can find such minerals on almost any planet's surface, but the quality and density will vary depending upon the type of planet you're on. Base metals are probably the most common materials you'll find, but they aren't particularly valuable. You can find rarer precious and radioactive elements on metal-rich worlds such as Mercury. An old miner once told me that you could tell the relative quality of a planet's minerals based on the planet's color as seen from space. To remember the color sequence from good to bad, the miner had a mnemonic that went something like, very young orangutan could grow bananas perhaps rather well. It is also the case that mineral yields will be better at hotter stars. Temperature is related to the size and color of a star. Red stars are the coolest, then orange, yellow, green, blue, and the hottest stars are white.
Now that's not true of the hottest star thing. It is in the game, but that's not true. Our sun, in fact, is a white star. It looks yellow to us, but it's actually a white star. Blue stars and violet stars are much hotter than white stars. So, but it's true for the purposes of the game. The important thing to note there was the very young orangutans thing. So that's basically, you know, violet, yellow, orange. That's what we were looking for. And then the rest of them, yeah. You just kind of get it guessed by the color. So that's an important clue for what we should do. Now, the several months to a year, I don't really agree with. The game has a time limit, and that would be a good chunk of the game. Alright, let's ask him how we could deal with the ur-quan.
Captain, I wish I had an easy answer, but I don't. The only way I can see of liberating Earth as well as the Alliance allies is to destroy the ur-quan and their armada of battle thralls entirely.
Well, that was helpful. Well, let's ask him if he has any plans.
To defeat our enemies, we will need awesome strength, both in your flagship and the fleet, as well as the assistance of powerful new allies. Though combat will be unavoidable and sometimes necessary to achieve our goals, I'm certain your wits will be at least as important as your weapons. You'll need to explore this region of space, gathering resources and information wherever you go.
Now, he's talking about information. Information is, in fact, very, very valuable in this game. In fact, there's people who deal exclusively in information, and we'll meet them later. But what he's talking about is the adventure game aspect of this, and it's very, very critical to pay attention to what people are saying, unless you have a walkthrough or something. And that's kind of what I'm doing right now, is to get clues from him.
You need to accumulate enough resources so we can build up your flagship and assemble a strong fleet. I'd also recommend that you acquire blueprints for other more powerful ships than our trusty cruiser. I suspect that aliens will not give you such prints unless you form an alliance with them.
Well, for now, the only ship we've got besides Alliance cruisers is Fwifo, who I will try to keep until the end of the game. If Fwifo dies, I will probably reload the game, because Fwifo is awesome, and that's pretty much it. But he's talking about upgrading our flagship and buying new ships, basically there. As for buying ships, you pick up a lot of free ships when you talk to people. I usually don't have to buy new ships. I just use the ships that people give me instead. And oftentimes I will sell ships. Like sometimes, eventually, once I get more ships, I'll sell the human cruiser because it doesn't suck, but it's just hard to use. It's very good against specific things, though, so I might keep it around. Let's ask him about alliances. I like how they assume that there are other allies for them to meet.
If you encounter an unknown alien race, proceed carefully and diplomatically. We need all the friends we can get, and we certainly can't afford any more enemies. Remember, Captain, with your precursor starship, you hold awesome power. But there will be situations when dealing with an alien race where a carrot will serve better than a stick. But first, you must determine what carrot the alien wants.
And this is also a reference to the adventure game aspect. Basically, to ally with someone, you have to do something for them. Whether it's fix their, mammon machine or just talk to them. There's specifically one race I can think of where all you have to do is talk to them, but pretty much everyone else, you have to do something to get them to join you. No, two races, I think, will just join you just for talking to them. One of them sucks and one of them don't. That's how we can ask how we can find the ur-quan. So we can avoid them. It'll mark them on our map for us, I think.
I don't know, Captain, but I suspect their battle thralls know more than we do, so I suggest you try to gather information from them, perhaps by force.
Ah, poop, he doesn't know. Okay. Well, we're not going to go talk to the Ilrath, because the Ilrath... I don't like the odds of fighting the Ilraths with the ships we got. I could beat them with the Pekunk, or the, not the Pekunk ship, the, Fwifo's ship. Fucking, yeah. Spathy, the looter. But, it's dicey sometimes because of their cloaking device.
At first, your ship will be far too vulnerable to permit frontal assault on the ur-quan. Even when your ship is at full power, we're faced with the reality that the hierarchy has thousands of ships. You cannot win the fight alone, Captain. You need allies. Also, towards the end of the war, when the hierarchy broke through the Corward front, we heard rumors that the ur-quan had unleashed some kind of super weapon which was unstoppable by normal means. You need to find out if that rumor was true, Captain, because if the ur-quan do have such a weapon, we'll have to find some way to stop it, or all our efforts are for naught.
This being a video game, that is definitely true.
What else can we discuss?
Okay, that's gotta be deal with aliens. This is rather important, and he'll give us some clues here to what we...
That all depends on whom you meet, doesn't it, Captain?
Yep.
Well, in all seriousness, if you encounter the Ilrath, Bucks, Androsynth, or other hierarchy battle thralls, I wouldn't hold out much hope for a peaceful encounter. So if you feel you have the advantage, attack. The resources you will scavenge from the enemy's wreckage are well worth the effort. If you can find alliance races who are in a position to help us, then you must convince them to join with us. Their assistance may be crucial to our success.
Well, he just pointed out another mechanic of the game, that when you defeat a ship, aside from the Ilrath ship we beat earlier, you get resource units for defeating them, basically scavenging the wreckage or so. He mentioned the members of the hierarchy, the Vux and the Androsynth, who I think the Androsynths were mentioned before. Yeah, because he mentioned that the scientists I was a part of the group of, or my parents were near Androsynth space. So yeah, yeah. So those are more people that are in the hierarchy. Okay, let's ask him what he would do if it was us.
Let's see. You need to build up and balance the strength of your flagship. I would add turning jets for increased maneuverability. I would add enough weapons to defend yourself if you're caught without escort ships. Your weapons will be underpowered in combat if you don't have at least one dynamo. I guess I'd gather more minerals to build up a good supply of resource units.
This guy is obsessed with mining. Like, everything he tells you is like, spend a bunch of time mining or else you'll die.
What else can I tell you?
We've gotten everything we could talk to him about this. This is just basic.
We can modify your precursor ship, build additional combat vessels, and supply you with fuel and crew.
This is just basic stuff on how we can upgrade the ship. Basically, he'll tell us how to get fuel. I mean, he just says...
The station is designed to serve as hierarchy ships. Fortunately, your flagship uses the same stabilized antimatter technology as hierarchy vessels and will be able to synthesize what you need. However, due to the size of your ship, we'll have to produce vast quantities of fuel, which will be a substantial drain on our resources.
Which is why fuel costs so much. Let's ask about this.
As you know, Captain, we've committed the entire output of this station to building your flagship and your battle fleet into the strongest force possible. However, our resources are very limited, and we feel you must decide how we are to spend our effort and material.
Hookers and booze.
To aid you in making these decisions, we have implemented a resource allocation scheme. We provide you with a numerical assessment of the station's resources and ascribe a cost to each task we can perform and each device we can build. It's up to you to decide how you're going to spend your resource units, or RU as we call them. To acquire more RU, you must bring resources back to the starbase. These resources can be either in the form of mineral ores gathered from planet surfaces or already refined metals and other valuable materials from the wreckage of enemy starships.
Better mine or you'll die. Yeah, this basically describes the kind of resources.
The most straightforward way you can accumulate resource units is to bring mineral ores back to this starbase. There are probably enough resources in just the nearby dozen stars to build your ship into a powerful battleship or to create a strong task force of combat vessels. I would also recommend that you build several additional storage bays. When gathering minerals, focus on cleaning out one star system at a time. This way you minimize the cost of travel through hyperspace.
This is true, and it's important to know. Your ship has a limited amount of space in which to carry stuff. And if you go out mining a lot, which I'm going to be doing pretty soon, just to get more speed on our ship and to upgrade our guns. I'm probably not going to fully kit it out with a bunch of shit, but and at least not until I get some stuff from some of our later friends. Let's go to the planet lander.
While I respect your search for abstract knowledge, frankly, Captain, in our present circumstances, I see little use for such data here. Perhaps you can make use of biological information elsewhere.
Oh, well, okay. He doesn't want to know about that. Some people do, like I mentioned earlier. This is basically, he's just going to tell us to buy ships.
Our shipyard facilities are sophisticated and fully automated, permitting a handful of starbase personnel to do the same job as 500 vac-suited construction workers. However, the only designs that we had in our computers were incomplete hierarchy ship designs. Things looked grim until one of the officers came forward with an amazing story. Even though the ur-quan destroyed every Earthling cruiser in the fleet nearly 20 years ago, one of my maintenance engineers was a Starship production assistant at the Detroit shipyard. When Earth was conquered, she was ordered to destroy all ship construction databases. But she secretly made copies of the blueprint discs and then kept them with her ever since. These discs contain all the data we need to build as many Earthling cruisers as you want, provided you, Captain, can supply the large amounts of mineral resources required to build those vessels. In theory, Captain, we could build alien starships here if we had designs for them. However, it's a well-known fact that alien vessels just can't be flown in combat without native starship captains at the helm.
Well, that's true. It's a little an interesting little side note. Pretty much the only Earthling cruiser we're going to use is the one we have, though. And basically, the only reason we can use FWIFO ship is because FWIFO is on it. So basically, you know, even just because we have the ship, we couldn't theoretically make more of them, but we don't have any spathy to do it with. Let's ask him this.
We have almost 2,000 highly motivated, skilled professionals aboard this starbase, and every single one of them wants a berth aboard your starship. However, each hand we lose to your ship means less manpower here at the starbase, and this is reflected in the crew RU cost. As long as you don't lose too many crew members to combat or planet exploration, the RU cost will remain static. But we have only so many warm bodies on this starbase, and if your needs for crew grow beyond a certain point, the cost could increase dramatically.
Yeah, basically, if you get all your crew killed, Commander Hayes starts getting really mad. And there's a certain event where you can really piss him off later, and I'll kind of show it. It's extremely detrimental to do it, and you don't get anything really valuable out of it for doing it, so I'm not going to do it. There is a really hilarious reason to do it, though. To do a specific thing with those people, though. I'll do it in a special save file just to show you what Commander Hayes does if you do that. Let's ask him about this.
Our engineers and precursor specialists agree with the scientists from your world that your starship was designed to be a workhorse vehicle, which can be easily reconfigured for different missions by adding or swapping self-contained equipment packs, which we call modules. The modules we can build right now are thruster units, which make your ship move faster, attitude jets, which allow you to rotate the ship more quickly, crew pods, which provide life support facilities for up to 50 additional crew members, storage bays, which increase your ship's cargo capacity for mineral resources, fuel tanks, which hold an additional 50 units of fuel, dynamos, which feed energy into your combat energy batteries, improving your weapon's rate of fire. And last but not least, ion bolt guns, combat weaponry, the exact function of which depends on its location aboard the ship. When put in the first or front module slot, it fires a single shot forward. When put in the second slot, it fires 2 shots, spread to the left and right of center. When put in the third slot, it fires 2 shots directly, left and right. And when put in the last or rear slot, it fires a single shot straight backwards.
Ass gun. I like it. Commander Hayes basically does the tutorial for me. But yeah, basically you get a spread gun effect for as many guns as you put on the front. You can't like stack guns on the front and get more front power, but the spread, at least the second slot spread, is really, really useful. So basically we're done asking about the ships.
What else can I tell you?
Well, basically we just got historical data.
What aspect of history, Captain?
And this is where you get some of the long-winded stuff. So this I might cut out, but this has got some important clues in it. So I'm going to do it, but I might make it into a special video.
Which group of aliens?
As you can see, we can ask about everybody.
Okay. Which race?
Let's ask about the Sirens, since we heard about them before.
Most raw recruits saw the Siren as nothing more than warm, breathing pinups. Warm they are, and yes, they do breathe most magnificently, but they are far more than simple joy units. The history shows the Siren established and maintained a peaceful culture from the Bronze Age through their discovery of starflight. Before their planet was destroyed in a horrible cataclysm, their world was an Eden.
It basically means they suck. They are... I mean, you have to get them for the storyline. I don't think you really have to get them, but it's very important to the canon story, I guess, that you do. They're basically like blue space chicks. And interesting things happen when you talk to them. Their ships suck, though. They look like dicks, and I'm not going to use them. This one looks impronounceable. Let's ask about them.
We didn't really get much of a chance to learn about those mechanical beings, but I'll tell you what I know. They're the product of a distant, unknown culture who sent a giant factory arc into our region of space many centuries ago. The Mother Arc, that's what the Earth Press called it, churned out millions of robots and finally broke down. I don't know why the Murnerherm didn't repair the Mother Arc. Maybe they can't. My personal guess as to why they were sent here is that they're on the leading edge of a colonization project. And once the Murnerherm obtained enough new worlds, the genuine colonists, whoever they are, will arrive and claim their due.
The Murnerherm... Well, it's kind of weird to have the mechanical beings on your side. Usually they're bad guys, but they aren't in this game. I mentioned the Arilu earlier, so let's talk about them. I think I mentioned them, pointing out the ships. Let's ask about it anyway.
I'd like to think I'm not a bigoted person, Captain, especially when it comes to allies, but there's just something about those Arilu that gives me the creeps. One thing I'll say for them, though, they possess some technique for moving really fast through hyperspace. They never let us know what it was, but sure beats the pants off our fastest ships.
That's an interesting point, and we'll have to ask them about it if we ever meet them. They are also pretty creepy, and they're like, I don't know, they're just creepy. The Chinjesu.
Chinjesu were leaders of the Alliance, even though they refused to accept formally the title. I don't know if their silicon-based biology is just plain superior to our old carbon models, or if their fantastic intellect were the product of an ancient, peaceful culture. Whatever the reason, I'd rather be taking orders from a Chinjesu than any other life form, absolutely. One of the more amazing things about them was they never used hyperwave communicators. They could send messages naturally, and their natural hyperwave receptors were much more sensitive than even our best units.
Yeah, I'm not sure what we can really gain from that. Let's ask about the Yehat.
The Yehat are a race of ancient warrior clans that have been traveling the stars for many centuries. Clans are highly competitive and sometimes even wage war on each other, but the clans are all loyal to the Queen and her royal family, known as the Veepzeeps. The Veepzeeps have been in power for over 2,000 years, and it is said that during their rule, the Yehat never lost a battle.
Well, they lost to the ur-quan, didn't they?
The Shofixti are a race of intelligent marsupials who had been civilized for only a few decades when the war began. They were discovered in the Delta Gorno star system by the Yehat, who adopted and then uplifted the Shofixti, giving them advanced technology and cultural definition. Shofixti are noble and fearless warriors, Captain. In addition, their incredible fecundity and rapid maturation rate kept Alliance ranks solid even at the worst part of the war. You know, I once flew as an observer aboard one of their ships on routine patrol. We never saw the enemy, but I could never stop thinking about the glory device it had strapped to the bottom of its hull.
Yeah, they're basically space kamikazes.
What other group of aliens are you interested in?
And that thing about their fecundity, that actually comes into play when we meet them. Let's ask about the battle thralls.
Which species?
Let's ask about the Spathi.
Imagine facing a cowardly, mobile clam armed with a howitzer, and you've got a good idea of what it's like dealing with a Spathi. Although they tend to avoid battles as much as their masters will allow, once in battle, a Spathi eluder is one tough cookie. I once heard a rumor, though I don't like to believe in it myself, that a rogue band of courageous Spathi broke away from the main Starfleet, painted their ships black with bright red stripes, and formed the Black Spathi Squadron, dedicated to performing brave and hostile deeds. Like I said, I'd have to see it to believe it.
Now, unlike most rumors in video games, that one actually doesn't come into play. The Spathi, in fact, you never meet them. But he was right about their ships. Their ships are tough and they're really good. They're extremely fast and extremely mobile, and they have a really awesome gun on them, and I'll show them off later. Let's ask about the Androsynth, since we've heard about them.
When I was flying combat missions along the Corward front, there was nothing we feared more than the Androsynth hit-and-run squadron. Their blazer ships were more than a match for our cruisers, so we stayed clear of Eta Vulpeculae, their home star. In addition, I think each of us aboard the ship knew deep down in our hearts that the Androsynth had a damn good reason for hating us. Our grandparents had kept them as slaves for nearly 50 years.
Now, judging by the name Androsynth, you can kind of guess that they're kind of, I think they're like cyborg clones or something. Yeah, and they're basically like humans that work with them. He told us where their home star was, so we can go there now. And we also heard about the Vox, so let's ask about the Vox.
The The Starship Far Voyager under the command of Captain Jeffrey L. Rand encountered the Bucks near Beta Mira. Although the details are hazy, it's generally accepted that Rand offended the Buck Starship commander with an inadvertent insult.
We'll hear more about that later. Much more about that. The Ilrath we've heard about.
I still have nightmares about those spiders taking me prisoner, using me as one of their 6 sacrifices to Dogar and Kazon, their twin gods of destruction and torment. Those guys were almost as scary as the Anderson to those of us in Deep Space Patrol. Their Avenger ships could appear out of nowhere and melt a cruiser down to slag in seconds. Luckily for us, the bulk of the Ilrath fleet was thrown against the Chenjesu and the Myrnaherm.
And the Chenjesu and Myrnaherm don't have shitty ships. The Mycon and the Umga are kind of weird. Let's ask about the Umga first.
It's unfortunate that the Umga fell to the ur-quan so early in the war, because I suspect we would have gotten along well with those big blob creatures. At the very least, it would have been entertaining. We know them a bit better than most races because they were eager to talk with our ships before, after, and during battle. The Arilu intimated that they had a relationship with the Umga before the ur-quan arrived, but I don't know any detail.
And that's creepy, because it involves the Arilu. And about the Mycon.
The Mycons are hard to get a handle on. In fact, I'm not sure any human has ever had a real conversation with a Mycon. What we know of them, we've learned from their corpses, which, I may add, have a nasty habit of coming back to life when thawed out from a decompression quick freeze. Mycon ships seem to expend a significant amount of energy on life support. This is probably because the Mycon only thrive in temperatures close to the melting point of lead. As far as we know, the Mycon are the only race to actively seek out the ur-quan in order to become combat slaves.
That's weird.
What other group of aliens are you interested in?
Alright, now we can ask about the other races.
None that we had made formal contact with. The Chenjesu implied that they had met 2 other star-faring species, one near the Gickless constellation and the other directly coreward from Procyon. The Arilu once mentioned having some fun with an alien race in Draconis, but like so much else with the Arilu, they never revealed the whole story. I'm sure there are hundreds more alien races in our galaxy, but beyond what I've told you, your guess is as good as mine.
Alright, let's kind of go back and look at what he said.
I'm sure, but like the Arilu, one near the Gickless constellation and the other directly coreward from Procyon. The Arilu, but like Shion.
Okay, so directly coreward from Procyon, and the Gickless constellation, which we've already learned from the Ilrath. So, yeah, now we got a bunch of clues about where we can go, and the Draconis constellation is also a clue to something we can do. Alright, we can also read it through this. Yeah. And that's quite a bit easier to read.
Would you like information on any other aspect of history?
Alright, let's ask what happened during the war.
What about the war? Earth got involved late in the game in 2112 when the Chenjesu arrived in our solar system for the first time. So let's back up a few years to 2098 when the Chenjesu super-sensitive receivers detected a strange signal from the Ophiuchi constellation. Though even the Chenjesu didn't know it, it was the first sign of the ur-quan's arrival. The ur-quan, having detected the presence of many sentient species, were beaming out an exulting, hunting cry. First direct evidence of the ur-quan's intent was the sudden conquest of the Umga, a solitary though not unfriendly species in the Orionis constellation. The Chenjesu, distraught by the invasion, were further angered when the ur-quan turned their fleets on the hostile but weak Ilrath race. A hastily assembled defense force of Myrnaherm and Chenjesu vessels turned the ur-quan fleet aside, but the invader moved into Spathy space, rapidly subjugating that race. With each new conquest, the ur-quan fleet grew larger as it added slave vessels to its ranks. Earth joined the Chenjesu to form the Alliance of Free Stars at about the same time as the Androsynth stars fell to the ur-quan armada. Before the ink was dry on our agreement with the Chenjesu in 2116, a new race appeared in orbit around the moon and asked for admittance to the Alliance. It was the Arilu. The timing seemed unusual, and the Arilu were definitely weird, looking like saucer men from Mars, but we were too busy cranking up our mothballed heavy industry, and we really didn't pay it much attention at the time.
Yeah, that gives us another clue. It tells us where the Umga are, which is Orionis. Yeah.
At the start of the war, here on Earth, we were working like crazy, churning out hundreds of heavy cruisers and smaller support vehicles. The ur-quan were busy too. Unbeknownst to us, they had moved down towards the Luton Star Group and were attacking the Vuks, who only the Yehat knew existed. Our botched first contact with the Vuks took place in 2119, and it was the biggest single mistake we made during the war. After defeating the Vuks, the ur-quan fleets ran smack into the combined might of the Yehat and Shofixti, supported by the first wave of our cruisers. Again, the ur-quan turned away from the hard spot to attack the weak, though we just thought they were running away. In fact, the ur-quan had found another independent alien race, the Mycon, in the Brahe constellation. The Mycon's voluntary submission to the ur-quan brought the return of the ur-quan fleets, now swollen with 100 devastating Mycon pod ships. The last entrants to the conflict were the Cyrene, a race of space gypsies who had escaped the hierarchy by moving their vast fleet of slow-moving habitats into human space. With the side set, the last ur-quan offensive began.
Well, it tells us where the Mycon are. And I believe the Vuks... Did it tell us where the Vuks were? Yeah.
The ur-quan came roaring through Vuk space and tried to push past the Indian Mira star systems. Their onslaught was barely repulsed, and our counterattack made hardly a dent on the hierarchy forces, but we held the line. The Corward front remained intact. Over the following 10 years, there were many great battles between the combined Alliance Starfleet and the ur-quan and their hierarchy of battle thralls. Then in 2134, a dramatic shift in the balance of power took place. This must have been about the time the science research mission was sent to the planet of Vela. Our fleets were pushed back from the Indy-Mira line beyond Raynet. Holding Rigel caused grievously in Chenjesu forces, and the ur-quan, recognizing this weakness, shifted to focus the brunt of their forces on Procyon. That was the last we heard from the Chenjesu and the Murnaher. A few weeks later, waves of ships hit us from all directions. When Ceres Station, our outpost on the asteroid belt, fell to the hierarchy, we knew we were beaten, but we fought on anyway. 3 days later, the ur-quan vaporized our last remaining laser forts on the moon, and the dreadnoughts took up geosynchronous position above Rome, Moscow, Beijing, Tokyo, London, Buenos Aires, and Washington. We'd lost the war, and we knew it. But the ur-quan decided to make it real clear. And that's why if you check any of our most recent maps, you won't find Buenos Aires.
Well, laser forts on the moon sounds pretty sweet.
After the UN submitted their formal surrender, we were given a week to decide the nature of our servitude. The ur-quan demanded that the decision be made through popular vote. When all the votes were tallied, Earth had chosen not to fight for the ur-quan. We had become a fallow slave world. We were given a month to withdraw all of our people and equipment to Earth. Anyone or anything left off planet would be destroyed after the shield went up. Then the ur-quan broadcast an odd message. All objects of human construction more than 500 years old were to be abandoned. We didn't know what the ur-quan meant until they moved their dreadnoughts into new orbital positions and opened fire on the surface with their fusion weapons. In seconds, large sections of London, Paris, and other European cities were incinerated. At first, we thought they were going to annihilate us after all. And we noticed they were also striking such targets as the Giza pyramids, the Parthenon in Athens, and Stonehenge. Curiously, the United States was almost untouched. The flaming rain lasted 40 hellish hours. It took days after we crawled from our smoldering shelters to realize what the ur-quan had done. Our new masters had targeted every building, monument, or other man-made construction older than 500 years and destroyed it. In those 2 days, we lost most of the history of mankind. In some cases, the ur-quan destroyed places we did not even suspect were significant. From their positions in orbit, the dreadnoughts blew away a kilometer of land in central Iraq, vaporized several targets in the Amazon rainforest, punched a big hole through the Antarctic ice cap to destroy something deep under the surface, and melted a broad swath of the ocean floor in the southeastern Atlantic. Then, just a couple of days later, the shield went up, and our contact with the outside world stopped. The next time I saw the stars was 8 years ago, when I was transferred up here to be the new commander of this starbase.
That's pretty depressing.
Would you like any information on any other aspect of history?
Ancient galactic history. Still tell us about the precursors, I think.
We have some data on this subject. What do you want to know about? Hell, you probably know more about them than I do, but here goes. About 200,000 years ago, when our great-to-the-nth grandparents were just starting to play with stone knives and bearskins, a star-faring species suddenly appeared on the galactic scene and spread like wildfire. We found evidence of their presence just about everywhere, from an orbital platform on Alpha Centauri to a stack of data plates in a cave on Pluto to some nameless widget found in a voodoo shop in New Orleans. We never found a precursor body or even a picture of one. We can conjecture what they look like by examining the scale and layout of their equipment. Such an analysis indicates they were giants, say 5 to 8 meters tall and twice as wide. I don't know if they looked more like a brontosaur or an elephant. Anyway, about 3,000 years after the precursors made their dramatic appearance, they vanished. Poof. As far as we can tell, it took less than a decade to happen.
We'll kind of find out about that in Star Control 3. We don't really find out much about the precursors in this game. We get a little bit of backstory. We don't find out directly what happened to them.
You mean besides the precursors? Well, the only information we have is secondhand based on some research by a Chenzetsu historian that I read at the Academy. Zed-Sert-Sek, the historian, found some evidence that there was a group of alien races who formed an interstellar empire not too far from here about 22,000 years ago. The only species in this empire actually lived in our region of space was a race of rock-like creatures who lived in the Vulpeculae constellation. The presence of the hostile androsynth in that part of space severely limited Zed-Sert-Sek's research. He never even found out the race's name.
That might be important.
Yes, there is. Aside from the precursor relics we have found on Earth, often in museums mislabeled as modern art, we've discovered disturbing evidence of much more recent visitations. Perhaps you're already aware that during the mid to late 20th century, there were unaccountable UFO sightings as well as dozens of reported encounters with alien life forms. Although we can discount many of the reports as wishful fabrication or traumatic translation, the military authorities of the time kept a secret record of the incidents which were legitimate. In each such case, the aliens are almost identical in appearance. They have white skin and minimal facial features except for huge almond-shaped eyes, which are often described as glowing or luminescent. This description fits almost perfectly the ur-quan. In most of the legitimate encounters, the people involved describe being physically examined or modified by the alien. In some cases, unusual pregnancies occurred, and in almost every instance, there were repeat visitations as though the ur-quan were doing checkups on their subjects. We never got the chance to confront the ur-quan about what they did to us and why. I wonder if we ever will.
Yeah. Ur-quan were really creepy.
Would you like information on any other aspect of history? Sure. Anything else?
I think we are done here. We already asked this.
Can you be more specific?
Yeah, we already asked this.
What else can I tell you?
Alright. So that's pretty
Fine.
much it.
Is there anything else you need? Be careful out there, Captain.
We got several important clues with that. And I may or may not cut that out into a special episode, so people who don't want to watch that can just go to their own thing.